Hello, I'm Nathan Speir, pianist, composer, and producer. The Emotive Leaf is my new release for 2015. This is a 5-part narrative series about the notes and production of this 2-disc ambient piano album. The material for the Emotive Leaf began coming to me in mid-2013. I was certain about the production of a new album, but I was not sure about what direction to take it in. With a day job and a full-time obligation as a husband and a father, I always am fighting for odd hours to work on music. I ended up writing most all of the music for the Emotive Leaf between 4 and 6 a.m. before I bicycled to work. One of the main themes that came to me while working on the new music was a Greek word called metonia, which literally translates to change one's mind. Before I played piano in the morning, I spent some time reflecting on where my heart was inside. Did I have regret or sorrow or fear about anything in my life? Have I taken too many things for granted? Or offended people I know or strangers in my life? These were questions I started to dwell on more through the whole day and night. So by the time I arrived at the piano in the morning, I felt like I had several journal entries to make. I hit the record button in my studio and just began playing. Sometimes I played for a whole hour without stopping, and other times I had this almost complete emotive song that just came out of that moment in the home studio. Either way, this is how I acquired the material for the Emotive Leaf, and the process of this kind of music diary spanned a full year's time. When I was putting together all of the tracks of the album, I was trying to find one track that perhaps encompassed the quintessence of the whole album. And this idea of changing one's mind and some of those questions I asked myself. I wasn't even sure if I was going to have a title track at the time, but one stood out to me that seemed to have a steady pulse, reminiscent of Eric Satie, and that's the song that became the Emotive Leaf. It was a later idea I had for this soaring cello, and I ended up working with some of the world's finest synth instruments for strings on this album, but it was a secondary choice because originally I had in mind to request some live performers come into my studio to mic, but I didn't find the resources or the time to be able to accomplish it. And it's always my hope to be able to work more with this kind of setup in the future. What I did accomplish, though, with this song was something that, to me, had a pulse from the inner heart, with a tone of sorrow, a tone of remorse, some subtle hopefulness that was in the air and pulsing towards something good. For me, I don't have the most epic struggle life story, in my opinion. And at a later date, perhaps I can share my life story, but it's not really my point here. The point I wanted to make with this was that I've recognized struggles that I have in my own, and the more I look at my own, the more I realize, the more I'm aware of so many others that just surpass mine, sometimes on epic proportions, especially when you look at an international level. So I wanted to touch on an aspect of this in a small way that resonated that type of vibe, and that's what became the Emotive Leaf. It was this thing that matures from a healthy leaf into a beautiful, subtle color that offers vibrance to everybody before it dissipates back to the earth and goes into another state, another point. And like our emotions that come and go, they are present, they move us, they give us something sometimes valuable, and they don't last forever. So the Emotive Leaf was the concept that came from that. And that's how I came up with this idea and the title track for this album.